Hi, I'd like to be a big welcome to Heather from Spoilt Rotten, and she's going to talk to us about dogs and the problems with humans being at home. So tell me about this, Heather.
Well, a lot of people are at home at the moment, so their dogs, some of them had separation anxiety before, which means that the dogs are basically, they get anxious, they get scared, they get afraid when their owners go out. But at the moment, with everybody being in, it's something which is quite an interesting topic to sort out because when you go back to work, the dogs which didn't have separation anxiety previously may start to develop it, and the ones which did have separation anxiety, they actually might get worse because we're in all the time.
So how on earth are you going to kind of combat this and work on these two different strategies, presumably?
Well, with regards to separation anxiety, I always like to start to understand what that is and how the dog feels. So I always talk to my customers and say, when I give them a personal situation. So when I was about 4 or 5, I was in this place. I can't remember where I was with my parents, but I felt that I was lost. Now I actually wasn't because my family knew exactly where I was, but the feeling that I felt was that I was lost and I was really upset. I was panicked. I was crying until they came and got me. Now that was one incident. However, that happened. It actually created quite a lot of anxiety for me while I was growing up. So whenever we went out, my dad always said, "Oh, the tallest building, just go over there if you get lost." Now I always say that to people about their dogs because they can understand what their dogs actually feel and how they're feeling. So the dogs understand that when you're getting ready, usually you have the same sort of routine of getting ready, where you put your coat on, you put your shoes on, things, and the dog starts to get anxious. So what we can do about that is actually have lots of little practice little sessions at home. So while we're here, we can actually start to practice doing our routine or even changing the routine up. So the routine of getting yourself ready and going out, you can actually do that practice. But then obviously you're not going to work for 4 or 5 hours. You're actually only going to pop maybe to the shop or just out into your garden. But it gets the dogs used to you actually leaving.
That's brilliant. So what about dogs that may have never experienced any problems in the past, but suddenly, um, when they get, when we finally do get out and they get left at home, do you think they might have a problem as well?
Yes, they might do because we're in all the time. A lot of people are spending time with their dogs, so the dogs are allowed to either roam the house and they're upstairs with them, or they're downstairs, or they're in the garden, or they're going out for their daily walk with their dog. So those dogs will have, now at the moment we're looking about 7 weeks or so of being with our dogs completely. So those dogs might actually start to, their routine will be that their owner is in all the time. So it could really affect them. So when we get out of lockdown and we go back to work, their dogs actually start getting upset because it's been about 7 or 8 weeks or so with their owner being in at home all the time.
So that would be a good idea, would it, to kind of prep any kind of dog really, um, ready for when they're going to be left alone for a long period of time again?
Yes, definitely. Now, a few different ways of doing this is one is actually give your dog some space at home. So while you're at home now, make sure that you actually maybe leave your dog downstairs while you pop upstairs. Give yourself some space so that if they want to go for a little sleep, then they're asleep and you're in a different room, or they're outside, you're inside, just so that they get some space by themselves so they remember what it's like to be by themselves.
Heather, that's some really fantastic tips, and thank you very much for sharing those with us. And I dare say, if anybody wants to get in touch to find anything more details, I'll pop your details on the screen. But once again, thanks very much, Heather Jones of Spoilt Rotten.
Thank you.